one and all. This is the Simstress, and I am back with installment number 3 of this build. And we were calling it Chatsworth House in the first video. Again, it was super loosely based on that house and the architecture used to build that grand home. It's not. As you can see, it's not ended up being, if you're familiar with it at all. I know you're all history buffs and you went and looked it up. Okay, probably not. But anyway, we have continued, and I have cut a little bit off of this because there was a lot of trial and error as far as different window styles and the placement of them, making sure that the symmetry was right, which I touched on a little bit in the first video. But there's a lot of that repetitive kind of stuff going on. And in this video, I also started working a little bit with the landscaping. I tried a couple things, didn't want to go super formal. I didn't want to go kind of in more of a French, very ornate manicured style, but I did want to incorporate some of that. So once I tried these kind of basic shrubs out in the front, it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. It didn't have the kind of that stately feel, the regal feeling that when you come up to one of these buildings you want to feel. I'm not sure if I achieved that in the end, but I did something that aesthetically I felt was nice and was fitting for the Simstress, something that, you know, we would enjoy going out into the garden and looking at all of our wonderful flowers in the English garden. So we have a tiny little bit of that French landscaping, but as well we've incorporated an English garden, which has kind of, it still has a lot of planning involved, but it has a little bit more color, a little bit more variety, less of a static placement for everything. There's a little bit more of a hodgepodge feel. I hate to use that terminology when I'm discussing English gardens, which are so beautiful, but that is what we ended up with. And as I mentioned previously, and you'll see in just a few minutes here, I accidentally, had to leave my computer, sad, had to pause in the middle of recording this and kind of didn't come back and show how I put together the English garden, which was fairly intricate. Lots of different top-down views and then checking it out from the sides. There was a lot going on. So I apologize, I did not include that for anybody who's really big on landscaping. I'm not saying it was a tutorial. By no means am I saying that it was something you could necessarily learn from. It's just an interesting process. And basically I'm doing this because I love sharing that process and I like to see what others are doing. None of this is boring to me. I pretty much watch everybody on YouTube that does this, and I really appreciate all these little details. So hopefully you can appreciate some of the more boring aspects of this build as well. You can see here I had a kind of a couple of strange moments building this balcony, moving windows back and forth and scooting things around. Again, lots of trial and error. This was a big building. I wanted it to look right, even though it wasn't an exact replica of the original inspiration for the build. At this point, when I was building, which again took about 4 hours to do the exterior, at this point I just kind of decided, what would Simstress like? What would Simstress like in her manor house? How would she like it to look from the front, from the side, from the back? How would she like people coming into her home to feel? And I think I ended up with something very close to what was in my mind's eye. So hopefully you'll enjoy the finished product. I have started working on the interior since filming the first 3 videos. I wish it was less than 3, but it took 3 to capture all of this. And I'm kind of proud of it, even though it's probably silly to some other serious Sims architecture folk that really get into the design aspect and really have a lot of background in that kind of industry, architecture in general, and they just really have an eye for it and they understand what works and what doesn't and what looks authentic. I have a lot of experience seeing different types of building. My observations, my interest in history and styles throughout history, I think fed into this quite a bit. I did some research, but I just kind of went with what I felt and what looked beautiful to me. So hopefully, again, that can be appreciated in this video. I know that I'm kind of biased. I really like it. There are a few things I would do differently at the end, but again, I have some limitations here that just I wasn't able to capture everything I wanted. But I must say, now that I'm starting to play inside of the house a little bit, I am getting a feel for why I did certain things and how they work in the storyline. And one in particular that's kind of funny, and I just want to share that up front before you even get to really meet the Simstress in the videos, is that this character really loves to play in the fountain in the back of the house. Every single time I leave her alone, that's where she is. So I can't say that, you know, even though she's kind of an embodiment of me and how I see myself and things that I enjoy and things that I love in life, she really is a culmination of all of those things. But I can't say that at any point in my life I would be caught in an Edwardian gown or any kind of historical, well, any kind of garb of any kind from any period in history playing in a fountain. Wouldn't be happening. So that's kind of comical to me. And I think, you know, I was going to try and correct that, but I think I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to let her play in the fountain whenever she wants to. It'll be her little quirk, her little idiosyncrasy that she's, you know, very proper. She's a romantic soul and she does all these beautiful things. And she's a writer and she loves art and she's a patron of the arts. And yet, when she has some free time, she goes out back and stomps around in the water. I like it. It's a nice little edge that she's got. So I'm going to leave that in there, even though it's slightly bizarre. But I never met anybody that was, you know, this rich and not eccentric. I know I just stereotyped, pigeonholed, made generalizations, whatever you want to say. Definitely don't come at me for that. I'm just being silly. So this is what's going on now. We've got some final touches. We went through several potential lamp choices and we've come up with this one that I did not expect to choose. I'm not even sure that I had seen it before. It's not, it doesn't really go with the architectural style based on the pack that it's from. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I don't want to be made fun of. But I thought it looked really pretty on the building and it looks, you know, it looks nice. It has kind of that weathered bronze appearance and it blends in really well. It's got kind of a natural earthy tone about it. So when the house is lit up at night, as it is, you know, here, you can kind of see as I'm adding them that they create just the right glow and they're not too obtrusive. You can't really see them on the building if you're not looking for them. They're just, you know, they don't blend in with the color very much, but they look like they're part of it. It's very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for there. There is a word, I'm sure of it. It's not coming to me right now, but definitely I think it fits in beautifully. And even when you zoom in, it doesn't look out of place or like it's incredibly the wrong time period or anything of that nature. Again, it's The Sims. This is not, you know, a really great platform for showing off authentic architecture and representing time periods extremely efficiently. However, I'm doing my best to make it beautiful. So hopefully you can overlook that and just appreciate it for its prettiness. So back here, it looks like I'm going to be starting to look for ways to get people out into the garden space. Tables, different types of plants, planters, something that I feel would represent the time period somewhat well. And I think I came up with something that I liked in the end. And maybe, you know, had a little bit too much overkill at certain points, a little too much flower action. I did go back through here later and changed some things about this, added some things, kind of moved some stuff around to try and make it just, again, very symmetrical, very, you know, look like a space that people could actually use, even though this is just for Sims. I probably wouldn't be doing this if I didn't really take my Sims kind of way too seriously. So, with that said, this is where we are in the video, and I think I'm not going to do a whole lot more. I decided to nix that whole flowers on the table. It's not a bistro, it's a home. So we got rid of those, and we're just going to move on and kind of do some finishing touches at this point. A couple of these taller planters, posts. I did put some light posts in the front, and I just wanted to add flowers everywhere that I could and just, again, make it really sweepingly romantic. So, gotta save. Always gotta save. I save frequently. I don't want to lose anything. I've had that happen. It's tragic. And here we are at the end. Last couple things I'm adding on, and then we are done for this one. I just want to say thank you if you're watching this. Stick with me, subscribe, please. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day.